Millionaire paralyzed by employee's words when the employee accidentally sees a photo of the billionaire's amnesiac daughter living with a middle-class family. The screeching of tires against asphalt pierced the crisp morning air, followed by the sickening crunch of metal on metal. In that split second, Rosalind Montgomery's world turned upside down, literally and figuratively. The sleek black Porsche, a 16th birthday gift from her perpetually absent parents, spun wildly before slamming into a streetlight. As the airbags deployed with a forceful whoosh, Rosalind's head snapped back, and everything faded to black. Beep, beep, beep. The rhythmic sound of medical equipment slowly penetrated the fog in Rosalind's mind. Her eyelids felt heavy, resisting her attempts to open them. When she finally managed to pry them apart, the harsh fluorescent lights of a hospital room assaulted her senses. She blinked rapidly, trying to bring the world into focus. A nurse in light blue scrubs noticed her stirring and rushed to her bedside. "Oh, thank goodness you're awake. How are you feeling, sweetheart?" Rosalind opened her mouth to speak, but her throat felt like sandpaper. The nurse quickly offered her a cup of water with a straw, supporting her head as she took small sips. As the cool liquid soothed her parched throat, Rosalind became acutely aware of a dull ache permeating her entire body. "What happened?" she croaked, her voice barely above a whisper. The nurse's expression softened with sympathy. "You were in a car accident, dear. You've been unconscious for 3 days. Do you remember anything about the accident?" Rosalind furrowed her brow, trying to recall the events leading up to her current state. But as she searched her mind, she realized with growing panic that she couldn't remember anything, not just about the accident, but about herself. I don't know," she stammered, her heart rate increasing. "I can't remember. Why can't I remember?" The nurse placed a comforting hand on her arm. "It's okay, dear. Memory loss is not uncommon after a traumatic event like this. I'm going to page the doctor and we'll get you checked out, all right?" As the nurse left the room, Rosalind's eyes darted around, desperately seeking something familiar. The stark white walls of the hospital room offered no comfort, no clues to her identity. She lifted her hands, examining them as if they belonged to a stranger. Her fingernails were perfectly manicured, she noticed absently, but that observation didn't trigger any memories. The doctor arrived shortly after, a kind-faced woman with graying hair pulled back into a neat bun. "Hello there, I'm Dr. Patel. How are you feeling?" Confused, Rosalind admitted, her voice quivering. I don't know who I am." Dr. Patel nodded sympathetically. "That must be very frightening for you. Let's start with what we know, shall we? Your name is Rosalind Montgomery. You're 15 years old, and you were involved in a single-vehicle accident 3 days ago. You suffered a concussion and some bruising, but thankfully no severe physical injuries." Rosalind absorbed this information, but it felt like the doctor was describing a stranger. "Montgomery," she repeated, testing the name on her tongue. It didn't spark any recognition. "Where are my parents?" A flicker of something concern. Discomfort passed over Dr. Patel's face. "We've been trying to reach your parents since you were brought in. Your father is apparently on a business trip in China, and your mother is at a conference in Paris. We've left messages, but haven't heard back yet." A cold emptiness settled in Rosalind's chest at this news. Even without her memories, she sensed that this wasn't unusual, her parents' absence, their unavailability when she needed them most. "Is there anyone else we can call for you?" Dr. Patel asked gently. "Any other family members or friends?" Rosalind shook her head, feeling utterly alone. "I don't know. I can't remember anyone." Over the next few hours, Rosalind underwent a battery of tests. MRIs, CT scanativus cognis, all designed to evaluate the extent of her memory loss and check for any underlying brain damage. As she was wheeled from one department to another, she caught glimpses of herself in reflective surfaces, a girl with long, dark hair and hazel eyes, her face pale and drawn. It was like looking at a stranger. By the end of the day, Rosalind was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. Dr. Patel came to discuss the results of her tests. The good news is that there's no sign of permanent brain damage, the doctor explained. Your memory loss appears to be a form of dissociative amnesia, likely triggered by the trauma of the accident. It's our hope that your memories will return gradually as you recover. And if they don't? Rosalind asked, voicing the fear that had been growing all day. Dr. Patel smiled reassuringly. Let's cross that bridge if we come to it. For now, the best thing you can do is rest and try not to force the memories. They often come back on their own, given time. As night fell, Rosalind found herself alone in the dimly lit hospital room. The events of the day swirled in her mind, a confusing jumble of medical jargon and fragmented information about a life she couldn't remember. She closed her eyes, willing sleep to come, but instead found herself assaulted by flashes of something. A grand house with marble columns, a woman's voice sharp with disapproval, the gleam of a diamond necklace, the lonesome echo of footsteps in an empty hallway, a man's back as he walked away, phone pressed to his ear. Rosalind's eyes snapped open, her heart pounding. Were these memories or just her imagination filling in the blanks? She couldn't be sure. All she knew was that these snippets left her with a profound sense of loneliness. The next morning brought a surprise visitor, a social worker named Ms. Chen. "Good morning, Rosalind," she greeted warmly. "How are you feeling today?" "A little better, I think," Rosalind replied, sitting up in bed, still confused though. Ms. Chen nodded understandingly. "That's to be expected. I'm here because we need to discuss your situation. We still haven't been able to reach your parents, and you're nearly ready for discharge. However, given your memory loss, we don't feel comfortable releasing you to an empty house." Rosalind felt a flicker of panic. "What's going to happen to me?" "We've arranged for you to stay with a foster family temporarily," Ms. Chen explained. "They're experienced in caring for teenagers in difficult situations. It would just be until we can reach your parents or until you feel comfortable returning home." The idea of going to live with strangers was terrifying, but Rosalind realized she didn't have much choice. Her apparent wealth and status meant nothing if she couldn't remember how to access it or where she lived. "Okay," she agreed quietly. "When do I leave?" "Tomorrow morning," Miss Chen replied. "The Johnsons are looking forward to meeting you. They have a daughter about your age, which we hope will help you feel more comfortable." As Mims, Chen left, Rosalind turned on the small TV in her room, seeking a distraction from her tumultuous thoughts. A familiar face appeared on the screen, a charismatic man with a warm smile, talking about the power of storytelling and human connection. "Remember, friends," the man said, looking directly into the camera, "every one of us has a story worth telling. By sharing our experiences, we create understanding and empathy. If you've been touched by any of our stories, consider subscribing to our channel. Together, we can make the world a little bit kinder, one story at a time." Rosalind felt a strange sense of comfort wash over her as she listened to the man's words. Even though she couldn't remember her own story right now, the idea that everyone had one, that everyone struggled and triumphed and connected with others, made her feel less alone. As she drifted off to sleep that night, Rosalind wondered what her story would be. Would she ever remember her past? And if not, what kind of future could she create for herself? Little did she know that her journey was just beginning, and the twists and turns ahead would challenge everything she thought she knew about family, friendship, and the true meaning of wealth. The sleek black Porsche glided smoothly through the gates of the Montgomery estate, its engine purring softly as it came to a stop in front of the imposing mansion. Rosalind Montgomery, then just shy of her 15th birthday, stepped out of the car, her designer handbag swinging from her arm. The sprawling grounds stretched out before her, manicured lawns and carefully tended gardens, creating a picture-perfect scene of wealth and privilege. As she walked up the marble steps to the front door, Rosalind's heels clicked against the stone, the sound echoing in the stillness of the afternoon. The massive oak door swung open before she could reach for the handle, revealing Thompson, the family's longtime butler. "Welcome home, Miss Montgomery," he greeted her with a slight bow. "Your mother asked me to inform you that she and your father will be delayed in returning from their trip. They send their apologies." Rosalind's shoulders slumped almost imperceptibly. "Of course they do," she murmured, handing her bag to Thompson. "When are they expected back?" "I'm afraid they didn't specify," Miss Thompson replied, his tone carefully neutral. "Your father mentioned some urgent business matters in Hong Kong, and your mother extended her stay in Milan for the Fashion Week." Nodding absently, Rosalind made her way through the grand foyer, her footsteps muffled by the plush carpeting. The walls were adorned with priceless artwork, each piece carefully selected to showcase the family's wealth and taste. But to Rosalind, they were just another reminder of the emptiness that permeated the massive house. She climbed the sweeping staircase to the second floor, heading towards her bedroom suite. As she passed by her parents' closed door, she paused for a moment, her hand hovering over the ornate handle. With a sigh, she let her arm drop and continued on her way. Rosalind's room was a teenage girl's dream, spacious with a king-sized bed, a state-of-the-art entertainment system, and a walk-in closet filled with designer clothes. She flopped onto a bed, staring up at the intricately painted ceiling. The house was silent save for the distant hum of the air conditioning. Pulling out her phone, Rosalind scrolled through her social media feeds. Pictures of her classmates from the prestigious Westfield Academy filled the screen. Girls in designer outfits at exclusive parties, boys showing off their latest sports cars. She liked a few posts automatically, but her heart wasn't in it. A notification popped up, a reminder of her piano lesson in an hour. Rosalind groaned, contemplating cancelling. But the thought of another evening alone in the echoing house was even less appealing than scales and arpeggios. As she changed into a fresh outfit for her lesson, Rosalind caught sight of herself in the full-length mirror. She looked every inch the perfect heiress. Long, dark hair expertly styled, makeup flawless, clothes worth more than some people's monthly salary. But her hazel eyes told a different story, a loneliness that all the money in the world couldn't seem to fix. The piano lesson passed in a blur of classical pieces and gentle corrections from her instructor. Rosalind's fingers danced over the keys of the grand piano in the music room, the melodies filling the empty space with a haunting beauty. As the final notes of Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major faded away, her teacher, Ms. Abernathy, applauded softly. "Beautiful as always, Rosalind," she praised. "You have a real gift. Have you given any more thought to the young musician showcase next month?" Rosalind shrugged, closing the piano lid. "I don't know. It seems like a lot of pressure." Miss Abernathy's kind eyes studied her face. "Is everything all right, dear? You seem a bit down today." For a moment, Rosalind considered opening up, sharing the weight of loneliness that pressed down on her. But years of maintaining the perfect facade won out. "I'm fine," she said, forcing a smile. "Just a little tired. Thank you for the lesson." After Ms. Abernathy left, Rosalind wandered through the silent house, her footsteps echoing off the marble floors. She passed by her father's study, the door slightly ajar. Peering inside, she saw the room exactly as he'd left it weeks ago. Papers neatly stacked on the mahogany desk. Family photos arranged precisely on the shelves. She stepped inside, running her fingers over the spines of leather-bound books lining the walls. A framed photo on the desk caught her eye, a younger version of herself, maybe 7 or 8, sitting on her father's shoulders at what looked like a carnival. Both of them were laughing, cotton candy sticking to their fingers. Rosalind picked up the frame, a lump forming in her throat as she tried to remember the last time she'd seen her father laugh like that. Setting the photo down, she noticed a brochure peeking out from under a stack of papers. Curiosity got the better of her, and she gently tugged it free. Westbridge High School, she read aloud, her brow furrowing in confusion. Why would her father have information about a public school? As she flipped through the brochure, a note in her father's handwriting fell out. Potential for Rosalind? More normal high school experience, it read, followed by a list of pros and cons. Rosalind's heart began to race as she read through the list. Was her father considering sending her to public school? The idea should have horrified her. Westfield Academy was the most exclusive school in the state, a breeding ground for future CEOs and politicians. But as Rosalind thought about the cliques and the constant competition, the pressure to maintain a perfect image at all times, she felt a spark of excitement at the possibility of something different. She carefully replaced the brochure and left the study, her mind whirling with possibilities. That night, as she lay in bed, Rosalind made a decision. She would talk to her parents about transferring to Westbridge High. The thought of leaving behind the only world she'd ever known was terrifying. As she drifted off to sleep, Rosalind imagined what it would be like to have real friends, to be known for who she was rather than what she owned. Little did she know that her wish for a different life was about to come true in a way she could never have anticipated. The next morning, Rosalind woke with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. She dressed carefully, choosing a simple but elegant outfit that wouldn't look out of place in a boardroom. Taking a deep breath, she dialed her father's number, steeling herself for the conversation ahead. To her surprise, he answered on the second ring. "Rosalind, is everything all right?" The concern in his voice was tinged with confusion. It wasn't often that she called him directly. "Everything's fine, Dad," she assured him. I was hoping we could talk about something important. Do you have a few minutes?" There was a pause, and Rosalind could hear muffled voices in the background. "I have a meeting in 10 minutes. Can it wait until I'm back next week?" Rosalind's heart sank, but she pressed on. "It's about school, Dad. I found the brochure for Westbridge High in your study. I think I'd like to transfer there for my junior year." The silence on the other end of the line stretched on for so long that Rosalind thought the call had dropped. Finally, her father spoke, his voice carefully neutral. "That's a big decision, Rosalind. Are you sure about this?" "I am," she said, surprised by the firmness in her own voice. "I think it would be good for me to experience something different." Her father sighed. "We'll discuss this when I get back. I need to go now, but we'll talk soon, all right? Take care, sweetheart." As the call ended, Rosalind felt a mix of disappointment and hope. It wasn't a no, but it wasn't a yes either. Still, it was a start. She looked out her window at the perfectly manicured grounds of the estate, wondering what life might be like beyond those gilded gates. Little did she know that fate was about to intervene in a way that would change everything. The morning sun streamed through the curtains of a modest bedroom, so different from the opulent suite Rosalind had known. She blinked awake, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings. The events of the past few days came rushing back: the accident, the hospital, and now her temporary home with the Johnson family. Rosalind sat up slowly, taking in the cozy room. This was to be her sanctuary for the foreseeable future, a world away from the life she couldn't remember. A soft knock on the door jolted her from her thoughts. "Rosalind, are you awake?" It was Mrs. Johnson, her voice warm and gentle. "Breakfast is ready if you're feeling up to coming down." "I'll be right there, thank you," Rosalind replied, surprised by how naturally the words came. She dressed quickly in clothes Miss Johnson had lent her, simple jeans and a t-shirt that felt foreign against her skin. As she made her way downstairs, following the scent of coffee and bacon, Rosalind's heart raced. She paused at the bottom of the stairs, taking a deep breath before stepping into the kitchen. The Johnson family was gathered around a small table, the scene so domestic it made Rosalind's chest ache with an emotion she couldn't quite name. Mr. Johnson, a tall man with kind eyes, looked up from his newspaper and smiled. "Good morning, Rosalind. How are you feeling today?" "Better, thank you," she replied, hovering uncertainly in the doorway. Mrs. Johnson bustled over, guiding her to an empty chair. "Sit down, dear. You must be starving. Emma, can you pass the orange juice?" Emma, the Johnsons' daughter, slid the juice across the table. She was about Rosalind's age, with curly red hair and a smattering of freckles across her nose. "Hey," she said, offering a small smile. "Ready for your first day at Westbridge High?" Rosalind's eyes widened. "First day? I'm starting school already." Mr. Johnson nodded. "We thought it might help to get you into a routine. But if you're not feeling up to it, we can wait a few more days." Rosalind considered this. The thought of facing a school full of strangers was terrifying, but the alternative, spending another day trapped with her confused thoughts, was even worse. "No, I think I'd like to go," she said, surprising herself with her decisiveness. The ride to school was a blur of nervous anticipation. Emma chatted easily about teachers and classes, while Rosalind stared out the window, trying to quell the butterflies in her stomach. As they pulled up to the school building, a towering brick structure teeming with students, Rosalind felt a strange sense of déjà vu. "You okay?" Emma asked, noticing Rosalind's hesitation as they got out of the car. Rosalind nodded, forcing a smile. "Just nervous, I guess." Emma gave her arm a reassuring squeeze. "Don't worry, I'll stick with you today. And remember, if anyone asks, we're just saying you're my cousin visiting for a while. No need to get into the whole amnesia thing if you don't want to." Grateful for the girl's kindness, Rosalind followed her into the building. The hallways were a cacophony of slamming lockers, laughing students, and squeaking sneakers. Rosalind felt overwhelmed, her senses assaulted by the noise and movement. As they made their way to the main office to pick up Rosalind's schedule, a group of girls passed by, their expensive clothes and perfectly styled hair standing out amid the sea of casual attire. For a moment, Rosalind felt a pull of familiarity, as if she should be part of that group, but the feeling passed as quickly as it came. The morning passed in a whirlwind of new faces and information. Rosalind found herself struggling to keep up in some classes, while in others, particularly French and music, knowledge seemed to flow from some hidden part of her brain. During a particularly challenging math lesson, she caught herself solving complex equations with ease, much to her own surprise. By lunchtime, Rosalind's head was spinning. Emma guided her to a table in the cafeteria, introducing her to a group of friends. As they chatted and laughed, Rosalind felt a warmth spreading through her chest. Is this what it felt like to belong? "So, Rosalind," one of the girls, Mia, asked between bites of her sandwich, "where are you from originally?" Rosalind froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. She glanced at Emma, panic rising in her throat. Emma jumped in smoothly. "Rosalind's from out of state. She's staying with us for a while because of some family stuff. Right, Guz?" Grateful for the save, Rosalind nodded. "Yeah, it's complicated," she added, hoping her vague answer would discourage further questions. As the conversation moved on to other topics, Rosalind's attention was drawn to a commotion at the other end of the cafeteria. A girl with long dark hair was on her hands and knees, picking up scattered papers while a group of students laughed nearby. Without thinking, Rosalind stood up and walked over. She knelt down beside the girl, helping her gather her things. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. The girl looked up, her eyes wide with surprise. "I'm fine," she mumbled. As Rosalind handed her the last of the papers, she noticed the name scrawled on one of the notebooks. "Brooke," she read aloud. The girl, Brooke, nodded. Yeah, that's me. You're new here, right? I haven't seen you around before. Before Rosalind could respond, one of the laughing students called out, "Better watch out, new girl. Hanging out with Brooke is social suicide." Rosalind felt a flash of anger. She turned to face the group, words springing to her lips before she could stop them. "And being a jerk is supposed to be cool? Maybe you should worry less about other people and more about your own behavior." The cafeteria fell silent, all eyes on Rosalind. She felt her cheeks flush, shocked by her own boldness. But as she looked around, she saw nods of approval from some students and even a few smiles. Brooke touched her arm gently. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly, "but thanks." As they walked back to Emma's table together, Rosalind felt a strange mix of emotions. Pride at standing up for someone, confusion at her own uncharacteristic behavior, and a nagging feeling that she was forgetting something important. The rest of the day passed without incident, but Rosalind couldn't shake the feeling that she was living someone else's life. As she sat in her last class of the day, staring out the window at the football field, a memory suddenly flashed through her mind: a gleaming trophy case, a uniformed chauffeur, the weight of expectations pressing down on her shoulders. The bell rang, startling her out of her reverie. As she gathered her things, Rosalind realized that for the first time since waking up in the hospital, she felt truly alive. The amnesia that had terrified her now seemed almost like a gift, a chance to experience life without the burden of whatever past she had forgotten. Walking out of the school with Emma and Brooke, laughing at a joke she didn't quite understand, Rosalind felt a sense of belonging she couldn't remember ever feeling before. As they passed by a poster advertising auditions for the school play, Brooke nudged her. "You should try out," she said. "I bet you'd be great." Rosalind hesitated, then smiled. "You know what? Maybe I will." As they climbed into Mrs. Johnson's car, Rosalind caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window. The girl staring back at her was a stranger, but for the first time, that didn't seem like such a bad thing. Whatever her past held, whatever secrets lay locked in her mind, Rosalind was determined to make the most of this unexpected new beginning. Little did she know that the life she had forgotten was about to collide with the one she was building in ways she could never have imagined. As the weeks passed, Rosalind settled into a routine with the Johnsons, finding comfort in the warmth of their modest home. Each morning she'd wake to the smell of coffee brewing and the sound of Emma singing off-key in the shower. It was a far cry from the silent morning she'd known in her previous life, though she couldn't quite remember the details. One Saturday afternoon, as Rosalind sat at the kitchen table, helping Emma with her French homework, Mrs. Johnson approached with a hesitant smile. "Rosalind, dear, I was wondering if you'd like to join me for a bit of shopping. You've been wearing Emma's hand-me-downs, and I thought you might like some things of your own." Rosalind glanced down at the faded jeans and oversized sweater she was wearing. "Oh, you don't have to do that, Mrs. Johnson. I'm fine with these clothes." As Mrs. Johnson's eyes softened, "I insist. Every girl deserves to have something that feels like her own." As they drove to the local mall, Rosalind felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. Shopping had once been second nature to her, though she couldn't recall specific memories. When they entered the bustling department store, Rosalind's eyes widened at the racks of colorful clothes. Mrs. Johnson noticed her hesitation. "Why don't you look around and pick out a few things you like? Don't worry about the price tags." Rosalind nodded, wandering through the aisles. Her fingers trailed over soft fabrics, and she found herself drawn to simple, elegant pieces rather than the flashy styles that caught other shoppers' eyes. As she tried on a pale blue sundress, Rosalind caught sight of herself in the mirror and gasped. For a moment she saw a flash of another girl, perfectly coiffed hair, designer clothes, a diamond necklace glittering at her throat. The image faded as quickly as it had appeared, leaving Rosalind feeling disoriented. "Everything okay in there?" Mrs. Johnson called from outside the fitting room. Rosalind shook her head, clearing the cobwebs. "Yes, I'm fine. Just lost in thought, I guess." As they left the store with a few new outfits, Rosalind felt a sense of guilt gnawing at her. The Johnsons were being so kind, spending their hard-earned money on her, when she had a nagging feeling that somewhere she had more than enough resources of her own. That night, as Rosalind lay in bed, her mind wandered to the piano in the Johnsons' living room. She'd been avoiding it, unsure why the sight of it made her heart ache. But now, with the house quiet and sleep eluding her, she felt drawn to it. Padding softly downstairs, Rosalind settled onto the bench, her fingers hovering over the keys. Without conscious thought, she began to play. The melody that flowed from her fingertips was hauntingly beautiful, a piece she didn't recognize but somehow knew by heart. So lost was she in the music that she didn't notice Mr. Johnson appear in the doorway, watching her with a mix of awe and concern. As the final notes faded away, he spoke softly. "That was beautiful, Rosalind. I didn't know you played." Startled, Rosalind's hands fell from the keys. I didn't either," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. And Mr. Johnson sat down beside her on the bench. "You know, when we agreed to take you in, the social worker mentioned you might have some unexpected skills. It's not uncommon for amnesia patients to retain procedural memories, things like playing an instrument or speaking a language." Rosalind nodded, her throat tight with emotion. "It's just frustrating. I can play this beautiful music, but I can't remember learning it. I can speak French fluently, but I don't know where I studied it. Sometimes I feel like I'm living someone else's life." Mr. Johnson placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "I can't imagine how difficult this must be for you. But try to think of it this way, these skills, these talents, they're a part of you. Even if you can't remember how you acquired them, they're still yours. And who knows? Maybe using them will help trigger more memories." His words settled over Rosalind like a warm blanket, easing some of the tension she'd been carrying. "Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for everything you and your family have done for me." He smiled, giving her shoulder a gentle squeeze. "We're happy to have you here, Rosalind. Now, why don't you play something else? I'd love to hear more." As Rosalind's fingers danced across the keys once more, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. The music might be a link to her past, but it was also becoming a part of her soul. The next day at school, Rosalind found herself drawn to the music room during lunch. As she sat at the piano, losing herself in another complex piece, she didn't notice Brooke enter the room. "Wow," Brooke said softly, causing Rosalind to jump. "That was amazing. I didn't know you could play like that." Rosalind smiled sheepishly. "Neither did I until recently. It's complicated." Brooke sat down next to her on the bench. "Life usually is," she said with a wry smile. "You know, there's a talent show coming up next month. You should consider entering." The idea sent a thrill of excitement through Rosalind, quickly followed by a wave of anxiety. "I don't know, performing in front of everyone seems a bit scary." "That's what makes it exciting," Brooke said, nudging Rosalind's shoulder playfully. "Come on, what's the worst that could happen?" As they left the music room together, laughing and discussing potential songs for the talent show, they didn't notice the group of girls watching them from across the hallway. "I can't believe Brooke managed to befriend the new girl," one of them muttered. "There's something off about that Rosalind chick. Did you see how she stood up to us in the cafeteria last week? Nobody does that." Another girl nodded, her eyes narrowing. "And have you noticed how good she is at everything? It's like she's some kind of prodigy or something. I bet she's hiding something." "Well," the first girl said, a mischievous glint in her eye, "maybe it's time we did a little digging. Find out who this Rosalind really is." As the weeks went by, Rosalind found herself thriving in her new environment. She joined the school's music club, where her talent at the piano quickly made her a standout member. And in her French class, she became the go-to person for help with pronunciation and grammar, much to the teacher's delight. But it wasn't just her academic and artistic pursuits that were flourishing. For the first time in her memory, admittedly a short span, Rosalind felt like she had real friends. Emma, Brooke, and their circle welcomed her with open arms, never pushing for details about her past that she couldn't provide. One evening, as Rosalind sat on the front porch of the Johnson home, enjoying the warm spring air, Emma joined her with 2 steaming mugs of hot chocolate. "Penny for your thoughts?" Emma asked, handing Rosalind a mug. Rosalind took a sip, savouring the rich sweetness. "I was just thinking about how different my life is now compared to when I first woke up in the hospital. It's strange, I still can't remember my past, but I'm starting to feel like I know who I am, you know?" Emma nodded thoughtfully. "I get that. It's like you're writing your own story now, instead of trying to remember someone else's." "Exactly," Rosalind agreed, feeling a surge of affection for her friend. "I just wish—" She trailed off, her eyes drawn to a sleek black car that had just turned onto their street. It was nothing like the other vehicles in the neighborhood, all gleaming chrome and tinted windows. As it cruised slowly past the house, Rosalind felt a chill run down her spine. Emma followed her gaze. Rosalind shook her head, unable to shake the feeling of unease. "Probably just someone lost," she said, trying to convince herself as much as Emma. But as the days went on, Rosalind couldn't help but notice similar cars appearing around town. She'd catch glimpses of them in her peripheral vision, in the school parking lot, outside the mall, cruising past the park where she and her friends hung out on weekends. "You're being paranoid," she told herself firmly, but the nagging feeling that someone was watching her refused to go away. It all came to a head the day of the talent show. Rosalind had spent weeks preparing, practicing her piano piece until her fingers ached. As she sat backstage, trying to calm her nerves, Brooke appeared with a reassuring smile. "You've got this," Brooke said, giving Rosalind's hand a squeeze. "Just pretend you're playing for fun, like you do in the music room at lunch." Rosalind nodded, taking a deep breath. "Thanks, Brooke. I don't know what I'd do without you and Emma. You've both been so amazing." As Brooke left to take her seat in the audience, Rosalind closed her eyes, running through the piece in her mind one last time. She was so focused that she didn't notice the man in the expensive suit slip slack backstage, his eyes scanning the room, until they landed on her. "Rosalind Montgomery?" His deep voice cut through her concentration like a knife. Rosalind's eyes snapped open, her heart racing. "Ah, yes. Do I know you?" The man's face softened with relief. "Oh, thank God. We've been looking everywhere for you. I'm Richard Hawthorne, your family's lawyer. Your parents have been worried sick." The world seemed to tilt on its axis as Rosalind stared at the man, unable to process his words. My parents?" Before Mr. Hawthorne could respond, a stagehand appeared. "You're on in 2 minutes, Rosalind." Rosalind looked frantically between the stagehand and Mr. Hawthorne, her mind reeling. The lawyer placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Go perform. We'll talk after. Your parents would want you to have this moment." In a daze, Rosalind made her way to the stage. As she sat down at the piano, her eyes scanned the audience, landing on the beaming faces of the Johnsons and her friends. For a moment she faltered, overwhelmed by the clash of her new life with the shadows of her old one. But as her fingers touched the keys, something inside her settled. Whatever came next, whatever truths awaited her after this performance, she had this moment. This music, this piece of herself that was hers, regardless of her past or future. With a deep breath, Rosalind began to play. The melody soared through the auditorium, carrying with it all the emotion and complexity of her journey. As the final notes faded away, she was met with a standing ovation, the applause washing over her like a wave. In that moment, caught between two worlds, Rosalind felt a profound sense of change on the horizon. The life she had built and the life she had forgotten were about to collide, and nothing would ever be the same again. As the applause faded and the curtain fell, Rosalind found herself enveloped in a whirlwind of emotions. The exhilaration of her performance mingled with the shock of Mr. Hawthorne's revelation, creating a dizzying cocktail of feelings. She made her way backstage in a daze, barely registering the congratulations from her fellow performers. "Rosalind, that was incredible." Emma's excited voice cut through the fog in her mind. Rosalind turned to see her friend rushing towards her, followed closely by Brooke and the Johnsons. Miss Johnson pulled her into a warm embrace. "We're so proud of you, dear. You were absolutely magnificent up there." Rosalind felt a lump form in her throat as she hugged Miss Johnson back. The genuine pride and affection in the woman's voice made her heart ache with a bittersweet mix of gratitude and guilt. These people had taken her in, cared for her, supported her, and now... "And thank you," she managed to whisper, her voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without all of you." As she pulled away from Mrs. Johnson, Rosalind's eyes met Brooke's. Her friend was beaming with pride, but there was also a hint of concern in her gaze. Brooke had always been perceptive, and Rosalind knew she must have sensed that something was off. Before Brooke could voice her concerns, Mr. Hawthorne appeared at the edge of their group. "Excuse me," he said politely, "but might I have a word with Rosalind in private?" The Johnsons exchanged confused glances while Emma and Brooke looked at Rosalind questioningly. Rosalind took a deep breath, steeling herself for the conversation to come. "It's okay," she assured them, though her voice quavered slightly. This is about my past. I'll explain everything later, I promise." As she followed Mr. Hawthorne to a quiet corner backstage, Rosalind felt as though she were walking on a tightrope, balancing precariously between the life she had built and the one she had forgotten. "First of all, Miss Montgomery, let me say that your performance was truly outstanding," Mr. Hawthorne began, his tone warm but professional. "Your parents will be overjoyed to know that you haven't lost your musical talent." Rosalind nodded mutely, still struggling to process the situation. "My parents," she repeated, the words feeling foreign on her tongue. They're looking for me." Mr. Hawthorne's expression softened. "They'd been searching tirelessly since your disappearance. When we heard about a Jane Doe, matching your description, who had been in a car accident, we hoped, but then you were released from the hospital before we could reach you." A flash of memory hit Rosalind, the screech of tires, the crunch of metal, the world spinning out of control. She gasped, pressing a hand to her temple as the image faded as quickly as it had come. "Were you all right?" Mr. Hawthorne asked, concern evident in his voice. Rosalind nodded, taking a shaky breath. "I'm fine. It's just I still don't remember much. I know who I am now, but my life before the accident is still a blank." The lawyer nodded sympathetically. "That's understandable, given the trauma you've experienced. The important thing is that we found you and you're safe. Your parents are on their way here now. They'll be overjoyed to see you." The mix of emotions washed over Rosalind at this news: excitement, fear, and a strange sense of loss. The life she had built over the past weeks suddenly felt fragile, like a soap bubble on the verge of bursting. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Hawthorne smiled reassuringly. "Now we take things one step at a time. Your parents will be here soon, and we'll sort everything out together. In the meantime, why don't you go back to your friends? Celebrate your wonderful performance. We can deal with the rest later." As Rosalind made her way back to the Johnsons and her friends, she felt as though she were walking through a dream. The familiar backstage area seemed suddenly alien, the excited chatter of her fellow performers, a distant buzz in her ears. "Rosalind, is everything okay?" Rosalind looked up to see her friend watching her with worried eyes. In that moment, the full weight of her situation hit her. These people, Brooke, Emma, the Johnsons, had become her world. They had taken her in, supported her, helped her build a new life from scratch. And now, with the return of her old life looming on the horizon, she realized just how much she had come to love this new existence. I'm not sure, Rosalind admitted, her voice trembling. Can we talk? Somewhere private? Brooke nodded, gently taking Rosalind's arm and guiding her away from the crowd. They found a quiet corner near the prop storage, away from prying eyes and ears. What's going on, Ros? Brooke asked gently. Who was that man? Rosalind took a deep breath, steeling herself for the conversation ahead. His name is Mr. Hawthorne. He's my family's lawyer. Brooke's eyes widened in surprise. Your family's lawyer? But I thought. I know, Rosalind interrupted, running a hand through her hair in frustration. I thought so too, but apparently my parents have been looking for me ever since the accident. They're on their way here now. A heavy silence fell between them as Brooke processed this information. Wow, she finally said. That's huge, Ros. How are you feeling about all this? Rosalind let out a shaky laugh. Honestly, I have no idea. I should be happy, right? My family has been searching for me. They want me back. But you're scared, Brooke finished for her, understanding dawning in her eyes. Rosalind nodded, feeling tears prick at the corners of her eyes. I don't remember them, Brooke. I don't remember anything about my life before the accident. But I remember everything that's happened since. I remember you and Emma and the Johnsons. I remember how it feels to sit at their kitchen table, doing homework and laughing over inside jokes. I remember the way Mrs. Johnson hugs me goodnight, and how Mr. Johnson always saves the last cookie for me. As she spoke, the memories of the past weeks flashed through her mind: movie nights with Emma, study sessions with Brooke, family dinners with the Johnsons. Each memory was a warm, comforting presence, a stark contrast to the cold void of her life before the accident. I've built a life here, Brooke, Rosalind continued, her voice thick with emotion. A life I love. And now I don't know what's going to happen. What if my old life takes me away from all of this? What if I lose everything I've found here? Brooke reached out, taking Rosalind's hands in her own. Hey, look at me, she said firmly. You're not going to lose us. No matter what happens with your family, Emma and I will always be your friends. And the Johnsons? They love you, Ros. They're not going to just forget about you because your biological family showed up. Rosalind felt a warmth spread through her chest at Brooke's words. The intensity of the friendship she had formed with Brooke over the past week still amazed her. From that first day in the cafeteria, when Rosalind had stood up for her, they had formed a bond that seemed to transcend time. You're right, Rosalind said, squeezing Brooke's hands gratefully. I'm scared, Brooke. What if I'm not the person they remember? What if I can't be the daughter they've been searching for? Brooke pulled Rosalind into a tight hug. You listen to me, Rosalind Montgomery, she said fiercely. You are one of the kindest, bravest, most talented people I know. If your parents can't see how amazing you are, then that's their loss. But I have a feeling they're going to love you just as much as we do. As Rosalind melted into the embrace, she felt some of her anxiety begin to dissipate. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew she wouldn't have to face them alone. The sound of approaching footsteps caused them to break apart. Emma appeared around the corner, her face a mix of excitement and confusion. There you are, she exclaimed. Everyone's looking for you. There's a couple here who say they're your parents, Ros. Rosalind felt her heart skip a beat. This was it, the moment her past and present would finally collide. She looked at Brooke, who gave her an encouraging nod. You've got this, Brooke whispered. We'll be right there with you. Taking a deep breath, Rosalind squared her shoulders and followed Emma back towards the auditorium. With each step, flashes of memory danced at the edges of her consciousness, a woman's perfume, a man's deep laughter, the feeling of silk sheets against her skin. But they remained frustratingly out of reach, like trying to grasp smoke. As they rounded the corner, Rosalind caught sight of a well-dressed couple standing with the Johnsons and Mr. Hawthorne. The woman's eyes were red-rimmed, as though she'd been crying, while the man stood ramrod straight, his jaw clenched with emotion. The woman's gaze locked onto Rosalind, and a soft gasp escaped her lips. "Rosalind?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Oh, my baby girl." In that moment, as Rosalind looked into the woman's eyes that mirrored her own, something deep within her stirred. It wasn't quite recognition, but a sense of familiarity, like a long-forgotten lullaby. "Mom?" The word felt strange on Rosalind's tongue, but not entirely wrong. The woman rushed forward, enveloping Rosalind in a tight embrace. The scent of her perfume, jasmine and vanilla, triggered another flash of memory. A grand staircase, a crystal chandelier, the sound of piano music drifting through a cavernous room. As her mother pulled back, cupping Rosalind's face in her hands, her father stepped forward. His eyes were suspiciously bright as he looked at her. "Welcome home, princess," he said, his deep voice thick with emotion. The use of the pet name sent another jolt through Rosalind's system. She remembered hearing that voice call her princess countless times, when she scraped her knee as a child, when she won her first piano competition, The memory slipped away before she could grasp it fully, leaving her feeling disoriented and overwhelmed. "I am sorry," Rosalind stammered, taking a step back. "I still don't remember everything. It's all so confusing." Her mother's face fell slightly, but she quickly masked her disappointment with a warm smile. "It's okay, sweetheart. We have all the time in the world to help you remember. The important thing is that you're safe and we're together again." As Rosalind looked between her parents, the Johnsons, and her friends, she felt as though she was standing at a crossroads. On one side was the life she had known for the past weeks, warm, loving, filled with genuine connections. On the other was a life of luxury and privilege that she could barely remember, but which had shaped her into the person she was. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice small and uncertain. Her father stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Now we take you home, princess, back where you belong." Rosalind felt her heart constrict at his words. Home? But where was home, really? The mansion she couldn't remember, or the cozy house where she had found friendship and acceptance? She looked at the Johnsons, who were watching the scene unfold with a mix of happiness and sadness. "But what about, the Johnsons have been taking care of me. They're family too." Mrs. Johnson stepped forward, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Oh, Rosalind," she said softly, "we've loved having you with us, but we always knew this day might come. Your real family has been searching for you, worried sick. They deserve to have you back." Rosalind felt tears welling up in her own eyes. "But I don't want to leave you," she whispered. "Any of you." Her mother exchanged a look with her father before turning back to Rosalind with a gentle smile. "Sweetheart, no one is asking you to cut ties with the people who have been so kind to you. We're eternally grateful to the Johnsons for taking care of you. Perhaps we can find a way for you to maintain these relationships while still coming home with us." A spark of hope ignited in Rosalind's chest. "Really? You mean I could still see my friends? Still visit the Johnsons?" Her father nodded, though Rosalind couldn't help but notice a flicker of something, reluctance, concern in his eyes. "We'll work something out," he promised. "For now, let's focus on getting you settled back at home. We have so much to catch up on." As the adults began to discuss logistics, Rosalind found herself drifting back towards Brooke and Emma. Her friends had been watching the reunion with a mix of awe and uncertainty. "So," Emma said, trying to keep her tone light, "I guess this means you're not really my cousin, huh?" Rosalind let out a watery laugh. "I guess not, but you're still my friend. Both of you are. That's not going to change, no matter where I live." Brooke pulled her into another hug. "You better believe it," she said fiercely. "Don't think you can get rid of us that easily, Montgomery." As Rosalind hugged her friends, she felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to see Mr. Hawthorne standing there, a sympathetic smile on his face. "I hate to interrupt," he said gently, "but your parents are ready to leave. They thought you might like to say your goodbyes privately." Rosalind nodded, her throat tight with emotion. She turned back to her friends, trying to find the right words to express everything she was feeling. I don't know how to thank you," she began, her voice trembling. "Both of you and the Johnsons. You took me in when I had nothing, no memories, no identity. You gave me a home, friendship, a place to belong. I don't think I'll ever be able to repay that kindness." Emma wiped away a tear, trying to maintain her usual cheerful demeanor. "Just promise you won't forget about us little people when you're back in your mansion, okay?" Rosalind shook her head vehemently. "Never! You guys are a part of me now, a part one never want to lose." As she hugged each of them one last time, Rosalind felt as though she were leaving a piece of herself behind. But as she walked towards her waiting parents, she also felt a sense of anticipation. Her past was no longer a complete blank. There were glimmers of memory, hints of the life she had lived before. Climbing into the back of a luxury SUV that felt both foreign and familiar, Rosalind looked out the window at the friends and foster family who had become so dear to her. As the car pulled away, she made a silent vow to herself. No matter what her old life held, no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would find a way to bridge these two worlds. The Rosalind who had performed on that stage tonight, confident, talented, loved, was a product of both her past and her present, and she was determined to honor both parts of herself as she stepped into an uncertain future. The city lights blurred as they drove, and Rosalind felt the weight of exhaustion settling over her. As she drifted off to sleep, lulled by the smooth motion of the car, fragments of memory danced through her dreams. A grand piano in a sunlit room, the taste of champagne at a glittering party, the sound of her mother's laughter echoing through a cavernous hall. When she woke, it would be to a world both old and new, familiar and strange. But for now, suspended between her past and her future, Rosalind Montgomery slept, her mind weaving together the threads of two lives into a tapestry yet to be fully revealed. As the weeks passed, Rosalind found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions, trying to balance her newfound family life with the connections she'd made during her time with the Johnsons. She split her time between the opulent Montgomery mansion and visits to the Johnsons' modest home, determined to keep her promise to maintain both relationships. One crisp autumn afternoon, Rosalind arrived at the Johnson residence for her weekly visit, excited to share the details of her latest piano recital. However, the atmosphere inside the house was tense, a far cry from the usual warmth and cheer she'd come to associate with the family. As she stepped into the living room, Rosalind found Mr. and Mrs. Johnson huddled over a stack of papers at the dining table, their faces etched with worry. Emma sat on the couch, her usual bubbly demeanor subdued. "Is everything okay?" Rosalind asked, her voice laced with concern. Mrs. Johnson looked up, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Rosalind, dear, we didn't hear you come in." Mr. Johnson sighed heavily, running a hand through his graying hair. "We might as well tell her, Martha. She's practically family." Rosalind's heart clenched at his words, a mix of warmth and worry washing over her. "Tell me what? What's going on?" Emma stood up, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "We're going to lose the house, Ros." The words hit Rosalind like a physical blow. "What? How? Why?" Mr. Johnson gestured for Rosalind to sit down, his voice heavy as he explained. "The company I work for is downsizing. I've been laid off, and with only Martha's income, we can't keep up with the mortgage payments. We've tried negotiating with the bank, but he trailed off, the weight of their situation hanging in the air." Rosalind's mind raced. The thought of the Johnsons, the family who had taken her in, cared for her, loved her when she had nothing, losing their home was unbearable. "There has to be something we can do," she said, determination setting in. "Maybe I could talk to my parents. They might be able to help." And Mrs. Johnson shook her head gently. "Oh, sweetheart, that's very kind of you, but we couldn't possibly accept that kind of help. It's not your burden to bear." But Rosalind was already formulating a plan. "It's not charity," she insisted. "You took care of me when I had nothing. Let me at least try to help." That evening, back at the Montgomery mansion, Rosalind paced her room, rehearsing the speech she'd prepared for her parents. When she finally gathered the courage to approach them in her father's study, she was met with mixed reactions. Her mother, Elizabeth Montgomery, listened with sympathy, her eyes softening at Rosalind's impassioned plea. Her father, Richard Montgomery, however, remained impassive, his expression unreadable. "Rosalind," he began, his tone measured, "while I admire your desire to help, we can't simply hand out money to every family facing financial difficulties. It's not sustainable, and it's not how the world works." Rosalind felt a flare of frustration. "But the Johnsons aren't just any family, Dad. They took care of me, loved me when I had no one else. Doesn't that count for something?" Elizabeth placed a calming hand on her husband's arm. "Richard, perhaps we could look into some options. A loan, maybe, or some connections for a new job for Mr. Johnson." Richard sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "I'll think about it. But Rosalind, you need to understand that we can't solve everyone's problems, no matter how much we might want to." Unsatisfied but unwilling to push further, Rosalind left the study, her mind already working on alternative solutions. She couldn't let the Johnsons lose their home. She wouldn't. Over the next few weeks, Rosalind threw herself into fundraising efforts. She organized a charity concert at school, leveraging her musical talents and newfound popularity to sell tickets. She reached out to her parents' wealthy friends, spinning tales of the Johnsons' kindness and generosity, hoping to secure donations or job leads for Mr. Johnson. Her determination didn't go unnoticed at school. While many students rallied behind her cause, impressed by her passion and the stories of her time with the Johnsons, others began to view her efforts with increasing resentment. "Must be nice to have rich parents to bail out your friends," Rosalind overheard one girl muttering in the hallway. "I bet she's just doing this for attention," another whispered loudly in the cafeteria, "as if she needs more of that." The comments stung, but Rosalind tried to brush them off, focusing instead on her goal. However, the tension came to a head one afternoon in the music room. Rosalind was practicing a particularly challenging piece for the upcoming charity concert when Amber, a girl who had once been friendly but had grown increasingly cold, stormed in. "It must be nice to have all this free time to play around on the piano," Amber spat, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Some of us actually have to work for our money, you know." Rosalind's fingers stilled on the keys. "I'm bored, I bet you I'm practicing for the charity concert. It's to help the Johnsons." Amber rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, we all know this is just another way for you to show off. You swoop in here with your perfect life, your big house, your talent that you probably paid for with Daddy's money. And now you're playing savior to the poor family that took you in. It's pathetic." The words hit Rosalind like a slap. "That's not true," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of hurt and anger. "You don't know anything about my life or what the Johnsons mean to me. I know that ever since you got your memory back and returned to your cushy life, you've been acting like you're better than everyone else," Amber shot back. "Well, guess what? Your money doesn't make you special. It just makes you lucky." Before Rosalind could respond, Brooke appeared in the doorway, her eyes flashing with anger. "Back off, Amber," she warned. "You don't know what you're talking about." Amber scoffed. "Oh look, here comes the faithful sidekick." Brooke stepped between Amber and Rosalind, her voice low and dangerous. "The only shadow here is the one cast by your jealousy, Amber. Rosalind has worked hard for everything she's achieved, memory or no memory. And unlike some people, she actually uses her advantages to help others. Now get out before I show you exactly how much I've learned in those self-defense classes my dad insists on." With a final glare, Amber stormed out of the room. As soon as she was gone, Rosalind collapsed onto the piano bench, her hands shaking. "Don't listen to her, Ros," Brooke said softly, sitting down beside her friend. "She doesn't know what she's talking about." Rosalind nodded, but the words had struck a chord. What if she's right, though? What if I am just doing this for attention? What if I'm not really helping at all? Brooke took Rosalind's hands in hers, forcing her to meet her gaze. "Rosalind Montgomery, listen to me. You are one of the most genuine, caring people I know. You're not doing this for attention or to show off. You're doing it because you love the Johnsons and you want to help them. That's who you are, with or without your memories." Rosalind felt tears welling up in her eyes. I feel so helpless sometimes. Like I'm stuck between two worlds and I don't fully belong in either of them." Brooke pulled her into a tight hug. "You belong exactly where you are, Ros. With people who love you, both in your fancy mansion and in the Johnsons' cozy living room. And we're going to figure this out together, okay? The concert, the fundraising, all of it. We're not giving up." As Rosalind hugged her friend back, she felt a renewed sense of determination. Amber's words had hurt, but they had also ignited a fire within her. She would prove to everyone, including herself, that her efforts were genuine, that her love for the Johnsons was real. The charity concert was no longer just about saving the Johnsons' home. It was about bridging the gap between her two worlds, about showing that privilege and compassion could go hand in hand. And as she returned to the piano, her fingers flying over the keys with newfound passion, Rosalind knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she wouldn't face them alone. The melody that filled the music room was no longer just a practice piece. It was a declaration, a promise to herself and to those she loved. Whatever came next, Rosalind Montgomery was ready to face it head-on, with music in her heart and friends by her side. The night of the charity concert arrived, and Westbridge High's auditorium buzzed with anticipation. Rosalind stood backstage, her heart pounding as she peeked through the curtains at the growing crowd. She spotted the Johnsons in the front row, their faces a mix of pride and worry. A few rows behind them sat her parents, looking slightly out of place among the sea of middle-class families, but wearing supportive smiles nonetheless. As the lights dimmed and the principal made his way to the podium to introduce the event, Rosalind felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to see Brooke, grinning from ear to ear. "Ready to knock their socks off?" Brooke whispered, giving Rosalind's shoulder a reassuring squeeze. Rosalind nodded, taking a deep breath to steady her nerves. "As ready as I'll ever be. I just hope it's enough." The concert began, showcasing a variety of talents from Westbridge High students. Singers, dancers, and musicians took turns on stage, each performance met with enthusiastic applause. But there was no denying that Rosalind's piano recital was the most anticipated act of the night. As her turn approached, Rosalind closed her eyes, centering herself. She thought of the Johnsons, of their warmth and kindness. She thought of Emma's laughter, of Mrs. Johnson's comforting hugs, of Mr. Johnson's encouraging words. With these memories fueling her, she stepped onto the stage. The spotlight hit her as she sat at the grand piano, its sleek black surface gleaming under the lights. Rosalind placed her fingers on the keys, took one last deep breath, and began to play. The melody that filled the auditorium was hauntingly beautiful, a piece she had composed herself, weaving together elements of classical music with more contemporary influences. It told the story of her journey, the confusion of waking up without memories, the warmth of finding a new family, the joy of rediscovering her talent, and the determination to help those who had helped her. As she played, Rosalind lost herself in the music. Her fingers danced across the keys, drawing out emotions that words alone could never express. The audience sat in rapt silence, captivated by the raw emotion pouring from the stage. When the final notes faded away, there was a moment of absolute stillness. Then, as if a spell had been broken, The auditorium erupted in thunderous applause. Rosalind stood, her eyes shining with unshed tears as she took in the standing ovation before her. As she made her way backstage, she was immediately engulfed in a group hug by Brooke. "That was amazing, Ross," Emma exclaimed, her eyes wide with awe. "You killed it out there," Brooke added, grinning proudly. Before Rosalind could respond, she felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to see Mr. Hawthorne, her family's lawyer, standing there with a smile on his face. "Miss Montgomery, that was truly spectacular," he said warmly. "Your parents asked me to fetch you. There's someone they'd like you to meet." Curious and still riding the high of her performance, Rosalind followed Mr. Hawthorne out to the lobby. There she found her parents standing with an older gentleman she didn't recognize. "Rosalind, darling, that was wonderful," her mother gushed, pulling her into a hug. "We're so proud of you." Her father nodded in agreement, a rare smile gracing his features. "You've truly outdone yourself, Princess, and it seems your talent has caught more than just our attention." He gestured to the older gentleman, who stepped forward with a kind smile. "Rosalind, this is Mr. Elliot Blackwood. He's a talent scout for Juilliard." Rosalind's eyes widened in shock. Juilliard, one of the most prestigious performing arts schools in the world. She had dreamed of attending there, though those dreams were hazy memories from before her accident. Mr. Blackwood extended his hand, which Rosalind shook in a daze. "Miss Montgomery, your performance tonight was extraordinary. The emotion, the technical skill, it's rare to see both in someone so young. I'd like to discuss the possibility of you auditioning for our program next year." Rosalind felt as though she were floating, the words barely registering through her shock. "I thank you, Mr. Blackwood. That's an incredible opportunity." As Mr. Blackwood began to explain the audition process, Rosalind's gaze drifted across the lobby. There, standing by the donation table were the Johnsons. Mrs. Johnson caught her eye and gave her a warm smile and a thumbs up. In that moment, reality came crashing back. The Johnsons, the fundraiser, the whole reason for tonight's performance. How could she be thinking about Juilliard when the family who had taken her in was on the brink of losing their home? "Excuse me," Rosalind said suddenly, interrupting Mr. Blackwood mid-sentence. "I'm sorry, but there's something I need to do." Ignoring the confused looks from her parents and Mr. Blackwood, Rosalind made her way to the donation table. As she approached, she saw Mr. Johnson's face fall slightly. "Rosalind, honey, you should be celebrating," Mrs. Johnson said gently. "Don't worry about us right now." But Rosalind shook her head, determination setting in. "No, this is important. How are we doing? How much have we raised?" Mr. Johnson sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's been a great turnout, and people have been very generous. But we're still short. By quite a bit, actually." Rosalind felt her heart sink. After all their hard work, all the planning and practicing, it still wasn't enough. She was about to respond when she felt a presence behind her. "Rosalind, what's going on?" It was her father, his brow furrowed in concern. In that moment, Rosalind made a decision. She turned to face her father, squaring her shoulders. "Dad, remember when I asked you for help with the Johnson situation, and you said we couldn't solve everyone's problems?" Her father nodded slowly, a wary look in his eyes. "Well, maybe we can't solve everyone's problems," Rosalind continued, her voice growing stronger. "But we can solve this one. The Johnsons took me in when I had nothing. They gave me a home, a family, when I couldn't remember my own. They're the reason I was able to play tonight, the reason Mr. Blackwood is interested in me for Juilliard. We have the means to help them, Dad, and I think we have the obligation to do so." Her father's expression was unreadable as he looked from Rosalind to the Johnsons and back again. For a moment Rosalind feared she had overstepped, that her father's business-minded pragmatism would win out over compassion. But then, to her amazement, a slow smile spread across Richard Montgomery's face. "You know, Princess," he said softly, "sometimes you remind me so much of your grandmother. She always said that true wealth wasn't about how much money you had, but about how much you were willing to share it. He turned to Mr. Johnson, extending his hand. "Tom, was it? Why don't we step into the office and discuss some options? I believe I may have a position opening up at one of my companies that could be a good fit for someone with your experience." The look of shock and gratitude on Mr. Johnson's face was mirrored on Mrs. Johnson's and Emma's. As the two men walked away, deep in conversation, Rosalind felt a wave of relief wash over her. Mrs. Johnson pulled her into a tight hug. "Oh, Rosalind," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "How can we ever thank you?" Rosalind hugged her back fiercely. "You already have," she replied. "Every day you took care of me, every kindness you showed. This is me thanking you." As the night wound down and the last of the attendees trickled out of the auditorium, Rosalind found herself sitting on the edge of the stage, her legs dangling over the side. The events of the evening swirled in her mind: her performance, the offer from Juilliard, her father's unexpected show of generosity. She heard footsteps approaching and looked up to see Brooke making her way down the aisle. "There you are," Brooke said, hopping up to sit beside Rosalind. "Quite a night, huh?" Rosalind nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "Yeah, you could say that." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Brooke spoke again. "So, Juilliard, huh? That's pretty huge, Ross." "Yeah," Rosalind replied, her voice distant. "It's always been a dream, I think, even if I couldn't remember it until now." Brooke nudged her gently. "But—" Rosalind sighed, turning to face her friend. "But I don't know." A few months ago, when I couldn't remember anything about my life, all I wanted was to find out who I was. And now that I know, now that I have all these opportunities, I'm not sure if that's still who I want to be. "What do you mean?" Brooke asked, her brow furrowed in confusion. "I mean the Rosalind who wanted to go to Juilliard, who was destined for a life of galas and concert halls. That was the old me. The me who grew up in a mansion and never had to worry about things like mortgages or job loss. But now," Rosalind trailed off, struggling to find the right words. "Now you're not sure if that's still your dream." Brooke finished for her. Rosalind nodded. "Exactly. These past few months, living with the Johnsons, going to Westbridge, making real friends, it's shown me a different kind of life. One where success isn't measured by how prestigious your school is or how much money you make, but by the connections you form and the impact you have on others." Brooke was quiet for a moment, processing Rosalind's words. "You know," she said finally, "I don't think you have to choose. The Rosalind I know, the one who stood up for me that first day in the cafeteria, the one who worked tirelessly to help the Johnsons, she's not defined by where she lives or where she goes to school. She's defined by her heart, by her willingness to fight for what's right." Rosalind felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. "You really think so?" "I know so," Brooke said firmly. "Whether you're playing piano in Carnegie Hall or in the Westbridge High Auditorium, you'll still be you. And that's a pretty amazing person to be." As Rosalind leaned her head on Brooke's shoulder, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. The future was still uncertain. There were decisions to be made, paths to choose. But for now, in this moment, she knew who she was. She was Rosalind Montgomery, shaped by two families, two worlds, and stronger for it. The empty auditorium seemed to hum with possibility, the echoes of the night's performances still lingering in the air. And as Rosalind sat there with her best friend, she realized that no matter what came next, she had the strength to face it. Because she had found something more valuable than memories or wealth. She had found herself. As the weeks following the charity concert passed, Rosalind found herself caught in a whirlwind of activity. Her performance had not only saved the Johnsons' home, but had also thrust her into the spotlight. Local newspapers ran stories about the amnesiac prodigy who had organized a concert to help her foster family, and suddenly Rosalind found herself fielding interview requests and invitations to perform at various events. At first, the attention was exhilarating. Rosalind threw herself into her music with renewed passion, practicing for hours each day and composing new pieces that reflected her journey. Her parents beamed with pride, eager to see their daughter reclaim her place in the world of classical music. However, as the pressure mounted, Rosalind began to feel the strain. The constant demands on her time meant less opportunity to visit the Johnsons or hang out with Brooke and Emma. She found herself torn between her old life of privilege and performance and the simpler, warmer existence she had come to cherish during her time without memories. One particularly grueling day, after a series of interviews and a lengthy practice session, Rosalind retreated to her room in the Montgomery mansion. As she collapsed onto her bed, her eyes fell on a framed photo on her nightstand, a candid shot of her with the Johnsons, taken during a backyard barbecue. The sight of their smiling faces made her heart ache with a sudden, fierce longing. Impulsively, Rosalind reached for her phone and dialed Emma's number. When her friend answered, the familiar voice was like a balm to her frayed nerves. "Ros, is everything okay?" Emma asked, concern evident in her tone. Rosalind hesitated, suddenly unsure of what to say. I don't know," she admitted finally. "I think I need a break. Can I come over?" There was a pause on the other end of the line, and Rosalind could almost see Emma's surprised expression. "Of course," Emma replied quickly. "You know you're always welcome here. Do you want me to ask Mom to make those chocolate chip cookies you love?" So the mention of Miss Johnson's cookies brought a lump to Rosalind's throat. "That would be amazing," she managed to say. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. As Rosalind made her way downstairs, she ran into her mother in the foyer. Elizabeth Montgomery was dressed in an elegant evening gown, clearly on her way out to some social event. "Rosalind, darling, where are you off to?" her mother asked, surprise coloring her voice. "Don't forget, we have the charity gala tomorrow night. You'll need your rest for your performance." Rosalind felt a flash of irritation at the reminder. Another performance, another opportunity to be paraded in front of her parents' socialite friends. "I'm going to the Johnsons," she said, her tone sharper than she intended. "I need some time away from all of this." Her mother's face fell slightly, a mix of hurt and confusion in her eyes. "But sweetheart, this is your life. The concerts, the galas, it's what you've always wanted." "Is it?" Rosalind countered, surprising herself with the vehemence in her voice. "Or is it what you and Dad have always wanted for me?" The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Elizabeth opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. "I'm sorry," Rosalind said softly, already regretting her outburst. I need some time to think. I'll be back later." Before her mother could respond, Rosalind hurried out the door, the cool evening air a welcome relief after the stifling atmosphere of the mansion. The drive to the Johnsons' house was familiar, even though she hadn't made the trip as often in recent weeks. As Rosalind pulled up in front of the modest home, she felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. The warm glow of lights from the windows and the faint sound of laughter drifting from inside filled her with a sense of homecoming. Emma met her at the door, enveloping her in a tight hug. "We've missed you, stranger," she said, her tone light but her eyes searching Rosalind's face with concern. As Rosalind stepped into the house, the scent of freshly baked cookies wrapped around her like a warm blanket. Mrs. Johnson appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "Rosalind, honey, what a lovely surprise," she exclaimed, pulling Rosalind into a motherly embrace. "You're just in time. The cookies are still warm." For the next few hours, Rosalind lost herself in the comfort of the Johnsons' home. She helped Emma with her homework, laughed at Mr. Johnson's terrible dad jokes, and savored every bite of Mrs. Johnson's cookies. It was as if the past few weeks of stress and pressure melted away, leaving behind the girl who had found solace and acceptance in this very living room. As the evening wore on, Rosalind found herself sitting on the back porch with Emma, gazing up at the stars. The night was quiet, punctuated only by the distant chirping of crickets and the occasional bark of a neighbor's dog. "I want to talk about it," Emma asked softly, breaking the comfortable silence. Rosalind sighed, drawing her knees up to her chest. "I don't know where to start," she admitted. "Everything's just so complicated now." Emma nudged her gently. "Try the beginning. That's usually a good place." With a weak chuckle, Rosalind began to pour out her heart. She spoke of the pressure to perform, the constant scrutiny, the feeling of being pulled between two worlds. As she talked, she felt tears begin to slide down her cheeks, months of pent-up emotion finally finding release. "I just don't know who I am anymore," Rosalind concluded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Am I the girl who woke up in the hospital with no memories? The one who found a family here with you guys? Or am I Rosalind Montgomery, child prodigy and society darling?" Emma was quiet for a moment, considering her words carefully. "Why do you have to be just one?" she asked finally. "The Rosalind I know, my best friend, she's all of those things and more. You're not defined by your circumstances, Ross. You're defined by your choices, by the person you choose to be every day." Rosalind turned to look at her friend, struck by the wisdom in her words. "When did you get so smart?" she asked, a watery smile tugging at her lips. Emma grinned. "Must be all that time I spent hanging out with a genius pianist." As they shared a laugh, Rosalind felt some of the weight lift from her shoulders. She wasn't alone in this. She had people who loved her, both in the grand Montgomery mansion and in this cozy suburban home. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway interrupted their moment. Curious, Rosalind and Emma made their way to the front of the house, where they found Rosalind's parents stepping out of their sleek luxury vehicle. Rosalind felt a flash of panic. Had they come to drag her back home? To chastise her for running away? But as her parents approached, she saw something in their expression she hadn't expected. "Rosalind," her father began, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant, "your mother and I, we owe you an apology." Stunned, Rosalind could only stare as her father continued. "We've been so caught up in having you back, in seeing you reclaim your talents, that we didn't stop to consider what you wanted. We didn't see how much pressure we were putting on you." Her mother stepped forward, tears glistening in her eyes. "We love you, sweetheart, and we want you to be happy. If that means taking a step back from performances and galas, if it means spending more time here with the Johnsons, then that's what we'll do." Rosalind felt her own eyes fill with tears as she looked between her parents and the Johnsons, who had gathered on the porch to witness the scene. In that moment she saw not two separate families, but one large, unconventional, perfectly imperfect family. "I don't want to choose," Rosalind said, her voice thick with emotion. "I love you all. The Montgomerys, the Johnsons, you're all my family. I just want to find a way to balance it all, to be true to myself while honoring both parts of my life." Mr. Johnson stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on Rosalind's shoulder. "Then, that's what we'll do," he said firmly. "All of us together." As Rosalind looked around at the faces of her loved ones, her biological parents, her foster family, her best friend, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. The road ahead might not be easy, but she wasn't walking it alone. The tragedy that had befallen her, the accident, the loss of her memories, had led to this moment of profound connection and understanding. It had given her not just one family, but two. Not just one life, but the opportunity to craft a new one that incorporated the best of both worlds. As they all made their way inside, the sound of laughter and conversation filling the air, Rosalind realized that her journey was far from over. But for the first time since waking up in that hospital bed, she felt truly, completely whole. She was Rosalind Montgomery, daughter of two families, friend, musician, and so much more, and she was ready to face whatever the future held with all the love and support surrounding her. The weeks following the emotional reunion at the Johnsons' house were a whirlwind of change for Rosalind. True to their word, her parents had scaled back on the social engagements and performances, allowing Rosalind more time to focus on school and her relationships. The balance she had craved was slowly becoming a reality, but with it came new challenges and unexpected twists. One crisp autumn morning, as Rosalind was preparing for school, her father knocked on her bedroom door. "Rosalind, do you have a moment?" Richard Montgomery asked, his tone uncharacteristically hesitant. Curious, Rosalind nodded, gesturing for him to enter. Her father crossed the room, taking a seat on the edge of her bed. In his hands, he held what looked like an old, leather-bound journal. "I've been doing some thinking," he began, his fingers tracing the worn edges of the book. "About your journey, about our family, about the kind of legacy I want to leave behind." He paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "I found this in your grandmother's belongings. I think it's time you had it." He held out the journal, and Rosalind took it gingerly, feeling the weight of history in her hands. As she opened it, her eyes widened in recognition. The pages were filled with sheet music, handwritten notes scrawled in the margins. "Your grandmother's compositions," her father explained softly. "She was a brilliant musician, you know. But she gave it all up to run the family business, to secure our future." There was a hint of regret in his voice that Rosalind had never heard before. "Dad, this is incredible," Rosalind breathed, her fingers tracing the delicate notes on the page. "But why are you showing me this now?" Richard Montgomery's eyes met his daughter's, a mix of emotions swirling in their depths. "Because I don't want you to make the same choices she did. I don't want you to give up your passion for some misguided sense of duty or obligation. Your grandmother, she always regretted not pursuing her music. I don't want that for you, Rosalind." Rosalind felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. This vulnerable, open side of her father was something she had rarely seen, even before her accident. "But what about the family business? I thought you wanted me to follow in your footsteps." Her father shook his head, a rueful smile playing on his lips. "What I want, Rosalind, is for you to be happy, to be fulfilled. If that means pursuing music, then that's what you should do. The business will always be here if you change your mind, but your talent, your passion, that's something special. Don't let it slip away." Overwhelmed with emotion, Rosalind threw her arms around her father, hugging him tightly. As they embraced, she felt as though another piece of the puzzle that was her life had fallen into place. That day at school, Rosalind couldn't stop thinking about her grandmother's journal. During lunch, she found herself in the music room, poring over the yellowed pages, her fingers itching to bring the long-forgotten melodies to life. So engrossed was she in the music that she didn't notice Brooke enter the room until her friend spoke. "Earth to Rosalind," Brooke said, waving a hand in front of Rosalind's face. "What's got you so captivated?" Rosalind looked up, a bright smile lighting up her face. "Brooke, you won't believe what my dad gave me this morning." She quickly explained about the journal, her words tumbling out in an excited rush. Brooke listened, her eyes widening as she grasped the significance of the gift. "Ros, that's amazing. Are you going to play any of these pieces?" Rosalind nodded eagerly. "I want to. There's one in particular," she trailed off, her fingers hovering over a particular page. The title at the top read Echoes of Memory, a hauntingly appropriate name given Rosalind's recent experiences. As Rosalind began to play, the melody filled the room, rich and complex. It was unlike anything she had played before, a perfect blend of classical structure and modern emotion. Brooke sat in rapt silence, watching her friend lose herself in the music. When the final notes faded away, there was a moment of hushed awe before a smattering of applause broke out. Startled, Rosalind and Brooke turned to see a small crowd had gathered at the door of the music room, drawn by the beautiful melody. Among them was Mr. Hendricks, the music teacher, his eyes shining with excitement. "Rosalind, that was extraordinary," he said, stepping into the room. "I've never heard anything quite like it. Is that an original composition?" Rosalind hesitated, unsure how to explain. It's my grandmother's," she said finally. "She wrote it years ago, but it was never performed." Mr. Hendricks nodded thoughtfully. "Well, it's about time it was heard. Rosalind, I have a proposition for you. The state music competition is coming up in a few months. With a piece like that, I think you could have a real shot at winning." The suggestion sent a thrill of excitement through Rosalind, quickly followed by a wave of uncertainty. The state competition was a big deal. It could open doors to scholarships, conservatories, a future in music she had only dreamed of. But it would also mean more pressure, more time away from her friends and the life she had built at Westbridge. Sensing her hesitation, Brooke spoke up. "You should do it, Ros. This is your chance to share your grandmother's music with the world, to honor her legacy and create your own." Rosalind looked between Brooke and Mr. Hendricks, feeling the weight of the decision before her. "Can I think about it?" she asked finally. Mr. Hendricks smiled understandingly. "Of course. Take your time, Rosalind, but don't take too long. We'll need to start preparing soon if you decide to compete." As they left the music room, Brooke linked her arm through Rosalind's. "So, what are you thinking? Are you going to do it?" Rosalind sighed, her mind whirling with possibilities. "I don't know. It's a huge opportunity, but you're worried about falling back into the pressure cooker life you just escaped," Brooke finished for her. Rosalind nodded, grateful as always for her friend's perceptiveness. "Exactly. I love playing, I love my grandmother's music. But I also love hanging out with you and Emma, having family dinners with the Johnsons, just being a normal teenager. I'm afraid if I do this competition, I'll lose all of that again." Brooke was quiet for a moment, considering her words carefully. "You know," she said finally, "I don't think it has to be one or the other. You've already proven that you can balance both worlds. Maybe this is your chance to show everyone, including yourself, that you can pursue your passion without losing yourself in it." As they reached their lockers, they found Emma waiting for them, a mischievous grin on her face. "Hey guys, guess what? I just heard the most amazing gossip." Rosalind and Brooke exchanged amused glances. Emma's love for school gossip was legendary. "All right, Em, spill," Brooke said, leaning against her locker. Emma's grin widened. "You know Jacob Matthews? The super hot senior? Well, word on the street is he's planning to ask Rosalind to the homecoming dance." Rosalind felt her cheeks flush. Jacob Matthews was indeed one of the most popular boys in school, athletic, charming, and undeniably handsome. Before her accident, the old Rosalind might have been thrilled at the prospect, but now— "Oh," she said, her voice small, "that's unexpected." Emma's face fell slightly at Rosalind's less than enthusiastic response. "Aren't you excited? This is huge, Ros. Jacob could have asked anyone, and he's choosing you." Brooke, ever perceptive, noticed Rosalind's discomfort. "Maybe Rosalind's got other plans for homecoming," she suggested gently. "Or maybe she's just not interested in Jacob." Emma's eyes widened in surprise. "Not interested in Jacob Matthews? Is that even possible?" Rosalind couldn't help but laugh at her friend's dramatic tone. "It's not that he isn't nice," she explained. "And it's just, I'm not the same girl I was before the accident. The old Rosalind might have been over the moon about this, but now I don't know. It doesn't seem as important anymore." As the words left her mouth, Rosalind realized the truth in them. Her priorities had shifted dramatically since her time with the Johnsons. The glitz and glamour of being on the arm of the school's most popular boy no longer held the same appeal. Emma nodded slowly, processing this. "I guess I can understand that. But if not Jacob, is there someone else you'd want to go with?" Rosalind's mind immediately flashed to an image of warm brown eyes and a kind smile. She pushed the thought away, surprised by its intensity. "I haven't really thought about it," she said, hoping her voice sounded casual. "Maybe we could all go as a group." Brooke's eyes narrowed slightly, as if she had caught something in Rosalind's tone. But before she could comment, the bell rang, signaling the start of their next class. As they hurried down the hallway, Rosalind's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. The state music competition, Jacob Matthews' homecoming, it was all so normal, so high school. And yet, underlying it all was the constant awareness of a unique situation, the girl with two families, two lives, trying to forge a path that honored both. Later that evening, as Rosalind sat at her desk in the Montgomery mansion, her grandmother's journal open before her, she found herself at a crossroads. The music called to her, offering a connection to her past and a promise for her future. But the thought of diving back into the world of competitions and performances filled her with a familiar anxiety. Her fingers hovered over her phone. Before she could second-guess herself, she dialed a familiar number. "Hello?" Mr. Johnson's warm voice answered. "Hi, Mr. Johnson," Rosalind said, surprised by how relieved she felt just hearing his voice. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything." "It's all never for you, Rosalind," he replied, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "What's on your mind?" Rosalind took a deep breath and began to explain about the journal, the state competition, her fears and doubts. As she spoke, she felt the tension begin to leave her shoulders. Mr. Johnson listened patiently, offering the occasional word of encouragement or asking a thoughtful question. When she finished, there was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. Then, Mr. Johnson spoke, his voice gentle but firm. "Rosalind, do you remember what I told you the day you left our house to return to your parents?" Rosalind closed her eyes, recalling that emotional day. "You said that no matter where I lived, I would always have a home with you." "Exactly," Mr. Johnson affirmed. "And that doesn't just apply to where you live, Rosalind. It applies to everything in your life. No matter what path you choose, music, business, or something entirely different, you will always have a place here with us. You don't have to choose between your passion and your family, biological or foster. We're all here to support you, every step of the way." Tears pricked at Rosalind's eyes as the weight of his words sank in. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what I'd do without you all." "You'll never have to find out," Mr. Johnson assured her. "Now, about this competition, I think you should go for it. Your grandmother's music deserves to be heard, and you deserve the chance to share your talent with the world. But remember, win or lose, it doesn't define you. You're so much more than just a musician, Rosalind. You're a daughter, a sister, a friend, and we love you for all of it." As Rosalind hung up the phone, she felt a sense of clarity wash over her. Mr. Johnson was right. She didn't have to choose between her worlds, she could embrace them both, creating a life that was uniquely her own. With renewed determination, she turned back to her grandmother's journal. Her fingers found the keys of her piano, and as the opening notes of echoes of memory filled the room, Rosalind felt a connection not just to her grandmother, but to every version of herself, past, present, and future. She would enter the competition, not for the accolades or the potential scholarships, but for the joy of the music itself. And no matter the outcome, she knew she had a network of love and support that would catch her if she fell. As the melody soared around her, Rosalind smiled to herself. The path ahead might be uncertain, but for the first time since waking up in that hospital bed, she felt truly, completely ready to face whatever came next. The months leading up to the state music competition flew by in a whirlwind of practice sessions, schoolwork, and precious moments with both of her families. Rosalind threw herself into perfecting her grandmother's composition, echoes of memory, spending countless hours at the piano. Her dedication was fueled not just by a desire to win, but by a deep connection to the music itself, a bridge between her past and her present. As the day of the competition dawned, Rosalind found herself surrounded by an entourage of supporters. Her parents, the Johnsons, Brooke, and Emma had all made the journey to the state capital to cheer her on. The sight of her two families, biological and foster, sitting side by side in the auditorium filled her heart with warmth. Backstage, as Rosalind prepared for her performance, she felt a tap on her shoulder. Turning, she found herself face to face with Jacob Matthews, the boy who had asked her to homecoming months ago. She had politely declined his invitation, choosing instead to attend with her friends as a group. "Hey, Rosalind," Jacob said, a nervous smile on his face. "I just wanted to wish you good luck out there." Rosalind returned his smile, touched by the gesture. "Thanks, Jacob. That means a lot." As he walked away, Rosalind caught sight of Brooke watching the interaction with a raised eyebrow. "What was that about?" her friend asked, coming to stand beside her. Rosalind shrugged. "Just a good luck wish. You know, I think in another life I might have been really into him." Brooke laughed. "And in this life?" "In this life," Rosalind said, her eyes meeting Brooke's, "I've learned there are more important things than dating the popular guy. Like true friendship." A soft blush colored Brooke's cheeks, and for a moment, something unspoken passed between them. But before either could address it, Rosalind's name was called. It was time. As Rosalind took her place at the grand piano on stage, she closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. The audience faded away, and in her mind she saw her grandmother, a woman she had never met, but whose legacy she now carried. With a silent prayer of thanks, Rosalind began to play. The notes of echoes of memory filled the auditorium, weaving a tapestry of emotion that held the audience spellbound. Rosalind poured everything into her performance, her journey of loss and rediscovery, the love of her two families, the friendships that had sustained her. As the final notes faded away, there was a moment of hushed silence before the auditorium erupted in thunderous applause. Rosalind stood, her legs shaky, and took a bow. As she looked out at the audience, she saw her parents and the Johnsons on their feet, tears streaming down their faces. Brooke and Emma were jumping up and down, cheering loudly. In that moment, regardless of the competition's outcome, Rosalind knew she had already won. The awards ceremony was a blur of nervous anticipation. When Rosalind's name was called as the first place winner, the eruption of joy from her supporters nearly drowned out the announcement. As she accepted her trophy, Rosalind felt a sense of completion, as if a chapter of her life had come full circle. In the aftermath of her victory, as congratulations poured in from all sides, Rosalind found a quiet moment with her father. Richard Montgomery pulled his daughter into a tight embrace, his voice thick with emotion as he whispered, "Your grandmother would be so proud of you, Rosalind, as are we all." The celebration continued late into the night, with both the Montgomerys and the Johnsons coming together for a joyous dinner. As Rosalind looked around the table at the faces of those she loved most in the world, she felt a profound sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought her to this moment. Later that evening, as the party wound down, Rosalind found herself alone on the hotel balcony, gazing out at the city lights. She heard the sliding door open behind her and turned to see Brooke stepping out to join her. "Some night, huh?" Brooke said, coming to stand beside her friend. Rosalind nodded, a contented smile on her face. "It's been pretty incredible." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Brooke spoke again. "So, Miss State Champion, Juliet, World Tours?" Rosalind laughed, shaking her head. "Honestly, I'm not sure. Winning this competition, it's opened up a lot of doors. But I'm not in any rush to walk through them just yet." Brooke turned to face her, curiosity in her eyes. "No, I thought this was your dream." "It was," Rosalind admitted, "or at least I thought it was. But this whole experience has taught me that there's more to life than just chasing after one dream. I want to explore all my options, you know. Maybe try some new things, see where life takes me." A soft smile played on Brooke's lips. "That sounds pretty wise, Ros, and for what it's worth, I think it's the right call. You've got so much to offer the world, not just with your music." Rosalind felt her heart skip a beat at Brooke's words. "Thanks," she said softly. "You know I couldn't have done any of this without you. Your support, your friendship, it's meant everything to me." Brooke's eyes shimmered in the moonlight. "That's what best friends are for, right?" "Right," Rosalind echoed, though the word friend suddenly felt inadequate to describe the warmth blooming in her chest. As they stood there, the city spread out before them and the stars twinkling overhead, Rosalind felt the future unfurling with infinite possibilities. She had music, she had family, 2 families in fact, and she had friends who had become as dear to her as any blood relation. Whatever came next, she knew she wouldn't face it alone. The next morning, as they prepared to return home, Rosalind received an unexpected visitor. Mr. Blackwood, the Gilead scout who had approached her after the charity concert so many months ago, had heard of her victory and came to offer his congratulations and to renew Gilead's interest in her. "We would be honored to have you audition, Miss Montgomery," he said, his eyes alight with enthusiasm. "Your performance last night was nothing short of extraordinary." Rosalind thanked him graciously but didn't commit to an immediate answer. "I'm exploring all my options right now, Mr. Blackwood. But I appreciate Gilead's interest, and I'll certainly keep it in mind as I make my decision." As Mr. Blackwood left, Rosalind caught her mother's questioning gaze. "Are you sure about this, sweetheart? Gilead has been your dream for so long." Rosalind nodded, feeling more certain than ever. "I'm sure, Mom. Dreams can change, and that's okay. I want to take some time to really figure out what I want, not just what everyone expects of me." Her mother's eyes filled with pride. "You've grown so much, Rosalind. Whatever you decide, your father and I will support you fully." The drive back home was filled with laughter and excited chatter as they relived the highlights of the competition. As they neared Westbridge, Rosalind felt a sense of anticipation building in her chest. This town, which had once been foreign to her, now felt like home in the truest sense of the word. As they pulled up to the Montgomery mansion, Rosalind was surprised to see a crowd gathered on the front lawn. A banner hung between 2 trees, reading "Welcome Home, State Champion." The Johnsons were there, along with what seemed like half the school, including Mr. Hendricks and even Principal Stevens. Overwhelmed by the show of support, Rosalind felt tears prick at her eyes. This was her community, her home, in all its wonderful complexity. The impromptu celebration lasted well into the evening, with music, food, and laughter filling the air. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the gathering, Rosalind found herself at the center of a circle of her loved ones. Mr. Johnson raised his glass in a toast. "To Rosalind," he said, his voice carrying across the lawn, "who has shown us all the power of perseverance, the strength of family, both given and chosen, and the beauty that can arise from life's unexpected turns. We are all richer for having you in our lives." A chorus of "To Rosalind" echoed around her, and as Rosalind looked at the faces of those she loved, her parents, the Johnsons, Brooke, Emma, and so many others, she felt a profound sense of belonging. Later that night, as the party wound down and guests began to depart, Rosalind found herself once again on the porch with Brooke. The air was cool, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and wood smoke. "So," Brooke said, bumping Rosalind's shoulder playfully, "state champion, potential Gilead student, beloved local hero. How does it feel?" Rosalind laughed, shaking her head. "Honestly, it feels right, not because of the title or the trophy, but because of moments like this. Being here with the people I love, knowing that no matter what happens next, I have this incredible support system." Brooke's expression softened. "You'll always have us, Ros, no matter where life takes you next." As they sat there, the sounds of the party fading behind them, Rosalind felt a sense of peace settle over her. The future was wide open, full of possibilities she had yet to explore. But here, in this moment, she was exactly where she was meant to be. The girl who had woken up in a hospital bed with no memories had come so far, piecing together not just her past, but a future of her own making. She had found family in unexpected places, friendship that defied explanation, and a sense of self that transcended the labels of prodigy or amnesiac. As the stars twinkled overhead, Rosalind Montgomery looked out at the world before her, ready for whatever adventure came next. She had music in her heart, love in her life, and the courage to forge her own path. And really, what more could anyone ask for? The end of this chapter was just the beginning of a life filled with promise. guided by the echoes of memory and the harmony of two worlds beautifully intertwined. Drawing from the characters' words and the story's themes, here's a message that aims to touch the emotional core of the audience. Life isn't about the memories we lose, but the ones we create along the way. As Rosalind discovered, family isn't just about blood, it's about the people who stand by you when you can't even remember who you are. It's about the Emmas who make you laugh when you're lost, the Brooks who defend you fiercely, and the Mr. Johnsons who remind you that no matter where you live, you will always have a home with us. I remember Rosalind's father's words, "What I want is for you to be happy, to be fulfilled." Sometimes our greatest triumphs come not from following a predetermined path, but from having the courage to forge our own. In the end, it's not about being a prodigy or having the perfect life. It's about finding harmony in the chaos, love in unexpected places, and the strength to play your own unique melody. As Mr. Johnson toasted, it's about the power of perseverance, the strength of family, both given and chosen, and the beauty that can arise from life's unexpected turns. So, whether you're standing on a grand stage or sitting on a worn porch step, remember that your story is still being written. Every struggle, every triumph, every moment of doubt and clarity, they're all part of your echoes of memory. And like Rosalind, you have the power to turn those echoes into a symphony. Because in the end, as Rosalind realized, dreams can change, and that's okay. What matters is not the applause of strangers, but the love of those who see you, truly see you, and stand by you through it all. So here's to the lost finding their way home, to second chances and new beginnings, to the families we're born into, and the ones we choose. Here's to you, writing your own extraordinary story, one note at a time. Drawing from the story's themes and characters, here's a message that incorporates a call to action for the audience. As Rosalind learned, dreams can change, and that's okay. Life's unexpected turns often lead us to the most beautiful destinations. Just like how Rosalind found a family in the Johnsons and true friendship with Brooke and Emma, we hope this story has touched your heart and perhaps even become a part of your own echoes of memory. If Rosalind's journey resonated with you, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Remember Mr. Johnson's words, "We're all here to support you every step of the way." We feel the same about our audience, so let's create a community of support and shared stories right here. If you enjoyed this tale of rediscovery and unconditional love, please leave a comment with the number 1. Your support means the world to us, just as Brooke's support meant everything to Rosalind. Curious about what's next for Rosalind? Want to see how she navigates her future, balancing her two families and exploring new dreams? If you're eager for a part 2, comment with the number 2. After all, as Rosalind said, I want to explore all my options, you know. Maybe try some new things, see where life takes me. And if there are parts of the story you disagree with or would like to discuss further, we welcome your thoughts. As Mr. Hendricks encouraged Rosalind to share her grandmother's music, we encourage you to share your perspective. Lastly, if you have belonged, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your subscription is like the applause that filled the auditorium after Rosalind's performance. It motivates us to keep creating and sharing stories. Remember, as Rosalind's father said, you're so much more than just a musician. And you, our dear audience, are so much more than just viewers. You're part of our storytelling family. So subscribe, comment, and let's continue this journey together. After all, in the words of Mr. Johnson, we're all here to support you every step of the way.